Okay, hi everyone. We are here from A Ferraris Law, and we are here to answer some of the questions that we last stopped on, and I promised you we would continue. So we are here with Christine. And hi, Christine, how are you doing?
I'm good, Lizette. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. It's at least not as cold as it was last time here in South Africa. How's the weather there in Arizona?
Hot and really hot. I think it's going to be 111 tomorrow, but it's pretty. The mornings aren't too bad, but yeah, it's hot in Tucson and then the rest of Arizona, except in the mountains. It's a little bit cool. I get up there now and again because it is a bit cooler up there, up in Summerhaven. It's about a half hour.
Awesome. At least it's nice and sunny there by you guys. I can't wait for our summer to start. So before we go any further, I just want to remind our audience that we are trying to give you helpful information and we are not giving any legal advice. This information could help you if you have questions regarding misconceptions when hiring a lawyer or just general questions, and also, if you have any questions you would like answered, you can also leave us a message or send us an email or even leave a message in the subscription box or anywhere, or even give us a call. And then we will be glad to answer any questions that you might have or any topics that you want us to talk about in the future. Okay. So last time when we were here, we were talking about how hiring a lawyer might affect your expenses. And today we are going to talk about what happens when we get sued. Do I need a lawyer to defend me, or can I represent myself? Which would be the best option?
Well, I always think it's good to have an initial conversation with a lawyer because we have different places you can get sued. Like there's a small claims court and there's a limited amount, at least in Arizona, in most jurisdictions, at least here in the United States, it can be anywhere from, $2,000 to $5,000. And a lot of times the small claims court encourages parties not to have lawyers and just try to sit down and work it out with the mediator or the judge that's part of the small claim. So depending on that. Now, if you're being sued in a civil matter, which is non-criminal, the procedure gets a little bit more overwhelming. And, even for attorneys, we have to sometimes remind ourselves what the rules are and how they apply in a particular situation and what you're being sued about. Are you being sued, as a business owner for a breach of contract? Are you being sued by an employee? And that kind of opens up the question, like, what kind of lawyer do I need? And because we have so many rules and requirements now as employers and as business owners, it is a good idea to have someone who has experience in that particular type of situation or area of law. And sometimes it's good just to call the regulating body for the lawyers, that they usually have a public access to, maybe submit a request for attorneys who participate in their lawyer referral program, or there may be at least discounted services through the local bar association wherever you are, like the county that you live in may have a bar association of local attorneys that sign up for and provide discounted services, or at least a discounted initial consultation. So I don't think it ever hurts to speak to someone, at least having a consultation about what your rights are, what your options are, and and a lot of times there are attorneys that will provide some limited representation. Maybe they'll just help you prepare documents and then you'll represent yourself if it's a smaller type of proceeding. And having that, initial investment and just getting some good legal advice on how to proceed will provide some clarity and peace of mind.
Okay, yes, that makes actually perfect sense. That does. I do think it's good to get, like you said, a bit of advice, and then at least where you stand and what your options are. Mm-hmm. So how do I find an experienced attorney? How do I find one? And does a number of experience matter, versus like if an attorney has 1 year of experience or 10 years, does that really matter, or how does that work?
Yeah. So it really depends on the person the attorney themselves, because there are some attorneys that have had other life experiences in a particular industry. Maybe they worked in the industry and then they became a lawyer later in life. So I would want to go with an attorney, maybe they only have 2 years of experience, but they know that area of law. Maybe it's the auto industry, maybe it's employment law, maybe they were an HR specialist and then they became an attorney, or maybe they worked in the law firm and then became an attorney. So, it's not just about the years as an attorney, even though that, is a factor. And there are plenty of attorneys that are, been practicing for a long time, but maybe aren't doing as good a job as somebody who is newer and, and has different experiences. So it really, most of the business that I receive is from referrals of other attorneys that, because they know the area of work that I do, and maybe other business owners that I've helped, so usually it's referral. You ask around for, the people that and then, as I said before, the Pima County Bar Association will have a list of attorneys here in Pima County, and the local jurisdictions usually have attorneys listed by their area of focus, let's say.
Okay.
And there are a lot of online resources now. I think there's Avo, there's Justia, and you can see, attorneys now are allowed, where they weren't before, to advertise about the areas of focus and, maybe some cases that they've done where they were successful. And so there's a lot of information on the internet now. I'm not saying that's a sole place, but it's a place if you don't have someone to ask, but, asking around, asking your employer, asking, your colleague, asking a friend, if they know someone, because at least for myself and for the firm, even if we can't help someone who's called us because it's not an area of law, we'll do our best to refer them to somebody that is knowledgeable in that area. And so we always try to do that. And I think most law firms will at least give you some idea if they're not working in that particular area. So it doesn't hurt to call a law firm that you know of, or maybe that you've worked with before, and ask them for a referral to another area or to someone that they have confidence in that can help.
Okay. That is really interesting, because I don't think a lot of people realize that that's how it actually works. But that is a good source of where to find your information and where to find an attorney that could fit your needs, and especially, like you said, it makes sense. Get an attorney that has basically life experience and has been through the similar or work experience basically in the area, and that'll be helpful as well. Mm-hmm. That's really, really interesting. Okay. So there is a almost similar question, but how do I know what type of attorney could represent my case, or can any attorney represent my case? And what type of attorneys do you get, or the practice areas they are in? Mm-hmm. Could you explain that a little bit better for us?
Yeah, certainly. So, and if an attorney in Arizona may not be licensed in Texas, so they can't represent, but they can get a local attorney to sponsor them to represent someone in that case. And sometimes we have cases where we are working with local attorneys, like in California. We have a case in California right now where we have a law firm that we're working with, because none of the attorneys in the firm are licensed in California, but now I'm licensed in Massachusetts. So I could file a case in Massachusetts. I wouldn't have to file it. And so it depends on where, in terms of jurisdiction in the state where they're licensed. Now, attorneys coming from out of the country and who are, lawyers in other countries, they would have to probably take an exam or go through some kind of process to be able to represent someone in the United States. And I would imagine there's something the same to go to South Africa or to Europe and so forth. But, and then as far as the areas of law, we have family law, which that generally covers, custody matters, divorces, prenuptial agreements, that area of law. Then you have wills and estates and probate when somebody passes, or planning their estate and planning for when their journey ends on the earth. We have criminal law, and then there's different areas of criminal law, capital punishment for really serious, murder and that kind of thing. And then all the way down to, traffic infractions and DUIs, those kind of things where you're being prosecuted by a public entity. And so generally speaking, and then you have employment law, for lawyers that are advising businesses, and for
Wow.
employees, who are, have an issue with, they want to, speak to a lawyer about maybe something that's going on in their workplace that they need help with. And so there's lawyers that generally focus on that area of law. Real estate, that's usually a general focus as well. Bankruptcy, and there's different parts of bankruptcy that people focus on. So there are a lot, and SCC, securities, insurance, bad faith. And the work, a lot of work we do, covers a broader area of like consumer fraud, where usually we're helping a small business or a consumer fight, like an insurance company, a bank, a public entity where they've been treated unfairly. So there is, and then in those areas, there's, people will focus on a particular niche of groups of people where, they do well, because the areas of law and regulation stuff can be really a lot to understand, even for an attorney. So once they understand a certain area, they tend to probably want to focus on that area so that they become really good at it. And then that's usually the attorney that you want to have if that's your problem, or if you want advice about how to avoid a problem.
Wow, that is a really broad spectrum of, different practice areas. And I never realized it was so many different fields that attorneys or lawyers can help you with. Yeah. That is like a lot. There's literally, for any area of your life or yes, particular matter you have, there's a attorney.
A good way to put it. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So that is awesome. And the last question I'm going to ask you today is, I think a lot of people go through stresses when they're hiring an attorney. And, if you go through certain situations, you can get depressed or have anxiety, or, even get panic attacks if it's that severe. And I know last month was mental health month, but I think we can address that, even this month, because there are so many people suffering with mental health. And my basic question is, how would hiring an attorney affect your mental health?
Well, and that's an interesting question, because one of the things we do with our initial consult is really to provide a relief from the stress that someone's been dealing with, because they just don't know what to do. So, usually at the end of the consult for me is like, okay, have we given you at least the answers to the questions you have? And that's real goal of that, is to provide some initial peace of mind and clarity. And I think that's really important for when you're considering hiring an attorney, and for, that as an objective to really understand, so that, it's kind of like going to the doctor when you really don't know what's going on or what's wrong. But then, even though you don't really want to learn that you have a problem, but at least once you know it, then you can set up a plan to figure out how to overcome it. And I think the same thing with, that those first steps with an attorney is trying to figure out what the problem is and what the options are. And so I think, but then that said, Lizette, like when you're in a dispute with someone, it is stressful. So the attorney is alongside you to help navigate how to find a resolution. And that's
like
how
a bodyguard.
Yeah, in a way, so that you're working together to figure out, okay, how can we resolve this? Not how can we don't, the purpose isn't to like prolong and protract litigation. It's like, okay, is there a way to resolve this? And how can we at least, what are the first steps to try to resolve it? That said, there is another there's usually at least one or two other people or entities involved. And so, it takes their cooperation too and their commitment to try to resolve it, which, I would say, 65% of the time, we get there without having to file a lawsuit. And so and so that's should be part of that conversation with your initial consult with whoever you're looking at to help you with a legal matter. One thing I should add too is that there are now like paraprofessionals and paralegals that are getting certified, and they've just passed a law in Arizona where people can qualify because they have a certain amount of experience and training where they're not quite a lawyer, so they can provide some limited scope of services. And so that's a possibility too. And, there's legal aid in the United States that, if you qualify, that with certain cases and stuff where you can provide or get certain types of help. The other thing I wanted to say, I think one of the misconceptions is in terms of people hear a lot about personal injury and that an attorney can take a case on a contingency basis. And that is a big commitment from an attorney, a smaller firm versus a bigger firm. A bigger firm has the resources, generally speaking, but they're going to really limit how they can help you. So that's an important question. It might end up being better to have us, be able to pay for a small amount of services and get a bigger result rather than doing contingent where you might only get a smaller amount of money back. And so that should be a conversation you have with whomever, you're having that initial consult with. What are the terms of representation and what would that look like, depending on the type of representation, if it's contingent or partially contingent. We work in different ways. Most of our work that we do, we are seeking recovery of the attorney's fees and costs, the fee shifting type of statutes, but our clients do invest, time and money into their cases because they believe in them and we believe in them. And so the contingent type of case doesn't always work on a particular area of law. Personal injury, it mostly does because you're working with insurance companies and those attorneys have that experience working with the insurance companies. And sometimes we can do that too, depending on the type of case, but it's something to be mindful of. Not every case can be a contingent case.
Okay. That is really good to know. Just to know you have somebody by your side, somebody that can help you make sense of all this and get to a resolution fast. I think that is really,
that's the goal, but that's the goal. Not always happens, but it is the goal to have a resolution and peace of mind and to be out of the bad situation.
Of course. Yeah. I think I would definitely be hiring a lawyer and not trying to do this by myself if I ever go through certain situations.
I would do the same thing, Lizette. I'm a lawyer and I would hire a lawyer. I wouldn't represent myself because it wouldn't make sense. It's better to have somebody else.
I would just rather, have somebody there with me every step of the way, being with me, understanding where I'm coming from and just trying to get the problem sorted out as fast and as painless as possible. So so I think if I were you guys, I would definitely hire an attorney or a lawyer. Okay, so thank you, Christine, for your time and for all the helpful information, and may you have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Lizette, as always. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Or rest of your night. I know it's later for you.
Yes, it is. Well, 10:30.
Ooh, that's really late. I'd be sleeping by now. I don't know how you're so lively.
I drink energy drinks and a lot of coffee. So
well, you need to get some sleep too. Remember that.
Yeah, I need to do that. So and thank everybody that's listening, thank you. And if you want to learn more, visit our website at www.aferrarislaw.com. And we will be uploading this video to our YouTube channel and all the social medias. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe for more.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Cheers. Bye.